संकल्पों की आस है कर्तव्य, परिश्रम की पराकाष्ठा है कर्तव्य, हर जीवन में ज्योत जला दे वो इच्छा शक्ति है कर्तव्य। करोड़ों देशवासियों के अधिकारों की रक्षा का आधार है कर्तव्य। मां भारती की प्राण ऊर्जा का ध्वजवाहक है कर्तव्य। नागरिक देवो भव के मंत्र का जाप है कर्तव्य। राष्ट्र के प्रति भक्ति भाव से किया हर कार्य है कर्तव्य। साथियों, आजादी के बाद दशकों तक देश की एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव मशीनरी उन बिल्डिंगों से चलाई जाती रही है जो ब्रिटिश शासनकाल में बनी थी। आप भी जानते हैं, दशकों पहले बने इन प्रशासनिक भवनों में वर्किंग कंडीशन कितनी खराब थी, और अभी वीडियो में कुछ झलक भी देखी हमने। यहां काम करने वालों के लिए न पर्याप्त स्पेस है, न रोशनी है, न जरूरी वेंटिलेशन है। आप कल्पना कर सकते हैं, होम मिनिस्ट्री जैसी महत्वपूर्ण मिनिस्ट्री करीब 100 साल से एक ही बिल्डिंग में अपर्याप्त साधनों के साथ चल रही थी। इतना ही नहीं, भारत सरकार के अलग अलग मंत्रालय दिल्ली के 50 अलग अलग जगहों से चल रहे हैं। इनमें से बहुत सारे मंत्रालय तो किराए की बिल्डिंग में है। इनके किराए पर जितने रुपए खर्च हो रहे थे वो अपने आप में बहुत बड़ा आंकड़ा है। और वैसे पूरा हिसाब लगाएं तो बहुत बड़ा है, लेकिन अगर मोटा मोटा हिसाब लगाएं तो 1,500 करोड़ रुपया प्रति वर्ष इसमें जाता है। इतनी बड़ी राशि भारत सरकार अलग अलग मंत्रालयों के सिर्फ किराए पर खर्च कर रही है। इसके अलावा एक और दिक्कत काम की वजह से स्वाभाविक है कि कर्मचारियों का यहां से वहां आना जाना भी होता है। अनुमान है कि हर रोज 8 से 10,000 कर्मचारियों को एक मंत्रालय से दूसरे मंत्रालय में आना जाना पड़ता है। अब इसमें भी सैकड़ों गाड़ियों का मूवमेंट होता है, खर्च होता है, सड़कों पर ट्रैफिक बढ़ता है, कितना समय खराब होता है। और इन सब से काम में भी इनएफिशिएंसी के सिवाय कुछ नहीं रहता है। साथियों, 21वीं सदी के भारत को 21वीं सदी की आधुनिक व्यवस्थाएं चाहिए, इमारतें भी चाहिए। ऐसी इमारतें जो टेक्नोलॉजी, सुरक्षा और सुविधा के लिहाज से बेहतरीन हो, जहां कर्मचारी सहज हो, फैसले तेज हो और सेवाएं सुगम हो। इसलिए कर्तव्य पथ के आसपास एक होलिस्टिक विजन के साथ कर्तव्य भवन जैसी विशाल इमारतों का निर्माण किया जा रहा है। ये तो पहला कर्तव्य भवन पूरा हुआ है। अभी कई कर्तव्य भवनों का निर्माण तेजी से चल रहा है। ये ऑफिसेस जब आसपास शिफ्ट होंगे, नजदीक नजदीक हो जाएगी, तो इससे कर्मचारियों को सही वर्क एनवायरनमेंट मिलेगा।
It's a vision for the long term, improving the efficiency, functioning of the bureaucrats and also the various ministries within government along the Kartavya Path. The first of the Kartavya Bhavans now being committed and rendered operational, inaugurated by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who's talking about better efficiency. The External Affairs Ministry, the Home Ministry are all likely to be housed in this new building, where Prime Minister has said that those government official ministries which are scattered around 50 different locations across the national capital will now all come together, converge into one large area around the Kartavya Path for greater efficiency and better performance. So the Prime Minister addressing the gathering there, but we will shift focus here on this edition of The Right Stand to the massive rescue operations that have now been mounted in Uttarkashi, and even as we speak, viewers, there is trouble brewing in neighboring Himachal too. So Friday is going to be a challenging one for those involved in rescue and disaster relief, be it the ITBP, be it the forces, be it the police, the NDRF, the SDRF, and of course the state administrations, because along with Uttarkashi region in Uttarakhand, even Himachal is facing the fury of nature. The death toll in Uttarkashi has risen to 5. Several people remain missing after this cloudburst in Dharali, followed by another cloudburst in Sukhi Top and then Harsil. And all of this has seen mass-scale devastation, especially in the Dharali village. Rescue operations are underway to locate over 100 people who've been reported missing, and that number is only going to increase. Personnel from the Indian Army, State Disaster Response Force or SDRF, local police, ITBP have all so far rescued 50 people. The biggest problem is connectivity, because roads are damaged, power lines are down, there is no phone or mobile connectivity, no internet, and all of that is going to only escalate troubles for the people who are still stranded and stuck up all along the line of the Khir Ganga, from Gangotri downwards all the way till it becomes the Bhagirathi at Uttarkashi. Now, despite relentless rainfall and rugged terrain hampering operations, Chief Minister Pushkar Singh Dhami remained at ground zero on Wednesday. He was able to get to Dharali, meet the people there, assuring them of all the assistance and also trying to understand the extent of the devastation. And there are 3 or 4 IAS officers who've been tasked. The centre has pressed in the Chinook helicopters to try and move heavy earth equipment, earth moving equipment like bulldozers and other earth movers, so that they can help in removing those tons and tons of rubble, which also include huge boulders that have come cascading down the mountains. So the rescue operations are underway. He's also chaired this disaster meeting at the Dehradun State Emergency Operations Centre or the EOC. He's further met disaster victims at the Uttarkashi PWD guest house and assured them of speedy rescue. Now, these are some of the visuals in the aftermath of the deadly flash floods at Dharali village in Uttarkashi. On the 5th of August 2025, this catastrophic cloudburst striking Dharali in Uttarkashi, Uttarakhand near the Gangotri Dham, unleashing massive landslides and flash floods. And look at the amount, not just of water, but the silt, slush, rocks, tons of debris coming down. Indian Army, SDRF, NDRF, ITBP engaged in urgent rescue operations. Now, there are also dramatic drone visuals that have now been accessed at CNN News 18. This is the Dharali market, totally smashed. This is all marketplace. Now, these are rooftops. These are all rooftops. Now, look at this. Some of these rooftops, the slush mud is all the way up to the rooftop of 2-story, 3-story buildings. On this side, this whole area, which is a market, is nothing but now a river area of rubble. That's what a river of rubble is, what we can look at, what we can call it. It's all been swept away. Then, at the state government's request, the central government provided 2 Chinook and 2 Mi-17 helicopters from Chandigarh, Sarsawa and also Agra, which arrived at the Jolly Grant airport this morning. Heavy machinery being transported via Chinook helicopters to restore road connectivity. The rescue operation includes 125 Army officers and personnel and 83 ITBP officers and personnel. Meanwhile, 6 BRO officers along with over 100 workers are engaged in clearing the block roads. Some bridges have been damaged and only iron bridges can serve the purpose as per the local authorities there, because that's the extent of damage. And there is also further flow of flow of water because of cloudbursts and heavy rains in the upper reaches, and the water cascading down could cause further damage. Now, this is how some people have moved across. These are the NDRF officials using the river ropeways to try and get across to the other side, because we see the flow of the river. It's quite thick and fast and dangerous. So they're using rails, rocks, and also ropes, however they can, to cross and get to the other side. Pushkar Dhami ji also visited the disaster-affected Dharali region in Uttarkashi to assess the ground situation, met families impacted by Tuesday's tragedy, which claimed 4 lives. During his visit, the Chief Minister assuring all possible assistance to affected families and taking stock of the ongoing relief efforts. So not just the aerial survey, he also landed there. Army personnel were present, and along with that, they also now have started taking food items, supplies, essential supplies for people to survive over the next 3 or 4 days before help or the roadways can actually, and connectivity can be restored via land. Now, adding to this trail of destruction in the hill states, a massive landslide and cloudburst struck the Senji village in the Pabo block of Pauri Garhwal in Uttarakhand. Now, several houses suffered damage in this tragedy. A cloudburst over in Himachal Pradesh, Kinnaur district, has caused a flood-like situation and devastation. The incident has led to the suspension of the Kailash Yatra. Landslides have also occurred, trapping vehicles and resulting in casualties. So, Himachal is yet another, the neighboring state, which is also seeing the fury of the forces of nature. And we are here on our continuous coverage here on CNN News 18. Our reporters have put their lives at risk. Our VJs have put their lives at risk to get to ground zero at the News 18 network. Very proud to be part of this team that is relentless in its efforts to try and get you the news, the coverage, comprehensive from ground. This is Anshul Singh, who's traveled overnight, not slept a wink, and he's been able to get up to Uttarkashi, and this is where the injured have been moved. This is the ITBP hospital. Have a look at this ground report.
In which they are going ahead and tackling this entire issue of Uttarkashi, of how several people have been injured. And since this is one of the most sophisticated hospitals in this entire area, hence the injured who are being airlifted from ground zero are being transported to over here. Till now, more than 13 patients have already been admitted to this hospital. This is another person, Virender, who has been taken out from the debris, and he has head injuries. Currently, his condition does not seem to be in the condition to speak at this point. However, 12 other people who were taken from there and were admitted to this ITBP hospital have all been, a few of them have been discharged, whereas a few others who needed more treatment, they have been sent either to Dehradun or to the AIMS Rishikesh, making sure that each and every person who is being rescued is given the treatment that is required over here. Apart from this, the Indo-Tibetan Border Force has gone ahead and made sure that they give as much as possible in this entire incident and provide as many facilities as possible. Joining me right now is Dr. Sir. Thank you so much for speaking to us, sir. Sir, क्या सिचुएशन रही है सर अभी तक, और आगे की क्या रणनीति है, किस तरीके से आगे और पेशेंट्स को ट्रीट करने की?
सिचुएशन ये रही है कि जैसे ही हमें पता चला कल लगभग 1:45 पे धराली में जो क्लाउड बर्स्ट हुआ है, हमारी रेस्क्यू टीम्स इंक्लूडिंग मेडिकल टीम्स वहाँ के लिए मूव कर गई थी। परंतु हमारे लिए सबसे बड़ी हर्डल ये आ रही थी कि जगह जगह रोड ब्लॉक्स थे, तो रोड ब्लॉक्स को क्लियर करना बहुत बड़ी चुनौती थी।
Well, the rescue operations are in full swing. Inclement weather and damaged roads. The Gangotri highway is totally gone. So from ground approach, it's becoming very difficult to get to the most affected areas of Dharali and Harsil. Let's go straight across to Moshen Shahidi, who's the DIG of the NDRF. Moshenji, namaste. This is Anand Narasimhan here. Thank you for your time. You're monitoring the rescue operations. How difficult is it to get down to ground zero?
Namaste. Thank you. Since this incident took place yesterday around 2 p.m., all the resources and manpower have been rushed there at the incident site. In fact, there have been the instance of 3 flash floods, one at Dharali, then at Harshil, and also at another place adjacent. But the maximum impact has been on Dharali village, where a lot of homes, commercial complexes, and shops, all those have been just, raised to the ground. So 3 NDRF teams have been mobilized, by road. However, because of the, inclement weather, because due to which there have been landslides at places, there have been, the roads have been simply, cut off. So huge exercises going on in restoration. And we are hopeful that as soon as, it is connected, the teams would be able to, reach the site and involve themselves in the operation. However, the teams, a small team has been airlifted, to the location from Dehradun, and we have more of them standing on standby for airlift as and when the weather becomes clear. So right now at the location, the Army, ITBP, SDRF, BRO, the local administration, they are involved in the operation on ground zero.
A lot of requirement for heavy earth movers and such equipment to clear the debris because it's huge boulders. The other part is because the road connectivity is gone, how there is a need for wooden bridges like in Bhatwari. I'm sure you're monitoring, and at various places. How soon do you think things will perhaps move towards normalcy, or there can be some mobility or connectivity established, Mohsinji?
That's right. There is a massive mobilization is in process right now, both through road and by air. And whatever resources are available on ground zero, with the forces there in the vicinity of this incident which has taken place, all that is being put to good effect. And the aim right now, the main focus is, on conducting this evacuation of the people who could be impacted in some subsequent flash floods. That is very important because, you don't want this to escalate. And then, of course, the incident that has happened, we have to prioritize and see whether there is any live victim who could be, attended first. And of course, then there would be the retrieval of the dead bodies as well, which is very important for us.
There was a concern of a 300-meter wide lake building between Dharali and Harsil. Has that been, meted, attacked, or in terms of resolved?
Yes, largely it has been resolved because, the water outflow has started. So it is not of a sort of threat as of now. And things are normalized at present.
The forecast is also of quite inclement weather over the next 24 to 48 hours. So should we expect perhaps some more damage, because these regions seem to be very susceptible to landslides and flash floods?
Yes, that is being appreciated, and that is why the evacuation is a priority to ensure that people, in the vicinity are, taken away to safer places. And for that, the relief is being provided. Medical aid is also, being provided by the agencies which are there on ground zero. And all that is in place right now. The important issue is to have the heavy machineries and other things so as to prioritize the actual action on ground in the rubble, in the muck that is there, and it covers a large area.
Final two questions. Upriver, Gangotri, also there are a lot of people who are stuck. And if the weather is inclement, how will you be able to move such people out? Is the NDRF considering options? How are we going to think about that? Because along with Dharali, upriver, there is Gangotri, downriver is Harsil, and further down towards Uttarkashi also there are a lot of resorts, tenements, and people moving for the Gangotri Dham Yatra, etc. They're all stuck there. So rescue, relief, food, all of this must be a huge challenge, because if you cannot use helicopter services, there are no helipads, and there seem to be thousands of people there, Mohsinji.
Yeah, you're right. All this is being worked out closely. It is being monitored at the highest level in the state and at the Home Ministry. And the priority, as I said, is to ensure that these people are there at safe places. And then as and when there is a window, which is open, the weather improves, there would be airlift and evacuation.
Which is the biggest, most affected area? Is it Dharali, and in terms of priority, which part is the least connected, where perhaps your focus of your team is going to be on ground?
Definitely, the village, Dharal, the impact has been massive. That is the focus area for us. And the operation would, prioritize on taking out, lives there wherever it is possible. And for that, we, need to employ the heavy machinery. We have got some special equipment with us, the GPRs and other things. And then, of course, the cadaver dogs also, which are trained in the detection of dead bodies. and all these will be put to good effect. And there are a lot of agencies, a lot of manpower is there. Some is already there, and more are being pressed into service by road and by air. So once all these people are there, I think I'm very hopeful that the present status of the operations would expedite.
Any estimate of the number of casualties or those feared dead?
The information that we have from the media itself, that 4 people are being reported to be dead, and more than 50 are missing. So this is the number we have at present, and the state and the administration is in the process of ascertaining the factual position. And I think shortly,
no estimation of number of people who were present at the time of the calamity. Is there any rough estimation of how many people could have been there?
I think the local administration is seized of this situation, and once they are able to estimate, then that is how we will prioritize the area. That okay, these are the thrust areas where the rescue work needs to be focused on, and accordingly the teams can be divided and tasked.
Final question on Himachal. There are reports of a cloudburst and landslides in Himachal. Is it? Are you aware of it? Could you update us on what's the situation there? Is a team being rushed there too?
Yes. In fact, yesterday late evening, there was a report of assistance and the flash flood in Kalpa region of Kinnaur, and there the yatris got stuck up, and the ITBP was there initially. A bridge was washed away. Then the NDRF responded. It was moved. It was stationed in the pre-monsoon. We have a system of pre-positioning of teams. It was nearby only, about 30 kilometers, moved in real time, and then helped to build the bridge with the ITBP. And more than 500 people have been since evacuated. And this morning also another series of evacuation took place. So been shifted to safer places.
Well, you and your team are staring in the face of danger and calamity to rescue and rehabilitate and save lives. All the best to you and your team, and thank you for your service. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Namaste, Jai Hind, and welcome to yet another very special effort. In exactly about 22 years from now, viewers, we will be a 100-year-old nation. The vision for a Viksit Bharat by 2047 is a very ambitious one, but it's not impossible. And one of the cornerstones for being able to get there, a Viksit Bharat, is of course economy. Amid Trump, tariff, trade, a lot of tantrums, and of course a global trend of economic nationalism, what is it that we as a nation need to do? Where is the recalibration required for us to get onto a growth path that will take us to a Viksit Bharat? So on the cusp of the Independence Day, let's have this conversation on economics and how much will geopolitics influence this, how much will sociological changes, tugs and pulls influence that, with some very renowned economists and also those who have been regular here at CNN News 18, almost integral to the CNN News 18 conversation around Bharat. PK Basu, economist with us, Saket Mishra, investment banker and economist with us, and we also have Rajat Dhar, Director Investments, India Federation for Investors and Global Traders. My namaste and Jai Hind to you. Thank you very much. Let's have an engaging conversation and let's make it free-flowing and interactive, so you don't need to wait for my questions. Anytime you want to chip in, you are free to take over. You are subject matter experts. So PKG, let me ask you, Trump, whatever he's saying, the tariffs and this entire agenda of bullying and a certain level of idiocy that's coming across, lies that are coming across, must be quite frustrating for the Prime Minister to hold restraint, to show that restraint that we generally as a nation show. Your thoughts?
Yeah, unfortunately, Trump is driven by personal agendas more than anything else. We are not willing to engage with his corrupt agenda, and therefore it becomes very difficult for us to come up with a negotiating strategy that works with him. Unfortunately, our negotiating team was looking at 25th August as the next negotiation and a bilateral trade agreement by middle of October. But Trump's deadline was 1st of August. I think we were aware of this, and we should have, I think we should have negotiated an agreement that is consistent with what Japan, Vietnam, the Philippines, Indonesia, the EU, the UK have all negotiated, which basically is Nothing very clear, nothing very specific, but you agree to most of what Trump is saying in exchange for a substantially reduced tariff on all your exports to the US. So if we had agreed to that, we would have got 10 to 15% tariff rate on all our exports, which would have been a huge advantage relative to China in particular, to Vietnam and others. And we have the opportunity. I think when we're talking about Viksit Bharat, what is really required is labor-intensive manufacturing to take off big time. You know, if you look at labor-intensive manufacturing, it employs about just over 13 million people in this country and has done so for the last 20 years. There's been no change, no increase. Our exports of labor-intensive products, textiles, garments, shoes, toys, processed food, are about 1/9 of China's. So we could easily triple that share over, say, a 5-year period, and go from basically take only 1/3 of what China does, and that would triple the amount that we export of those products, and it would generate millions of jobs. You could go from 13 million to 30 million people employed in that sector. Now, apart from that, if you think about something like Apple, now Apple has committed massively to India. Tim Cook said at the recent results conference of his company that almost all iPhones exported into the US market are now made in India. That is a remarkable shift. Now, that is jeopardized if electronics is included within the 25% plus tariff rate that Trump is proposing. He is a mercurial, unpredictable president, and also somewhat venal. So, given that, it's difficult to negotiate with him, but nonetheless, I think we should have negotiated a deal and got along with it.
Well, the negotiations are on. There is also this thought process that although the American exports contribute to 2% of Bharat's GDP, and of which about nearly 1.5% is exempt of tariffs, and the weighted tariff is only about 4.6%. So Saket Mishra, what's all this hue and cry about? And they continue to do business truck with Russia, and when Trump was asked about it, he acted as if he didn't know. So
it's quite possible he didn't know. I mean, given where things are. But I think I do not think we could have reached an agreement with him, primarily because our situation and our economy and what we do and the people that we need to take care of, for example, the small farmer, is a lot more complex than anything that, let's say, EU or Japan have.
Right.
We have a very different and diverse sort of set of people that we take care of. Second is that with Trump, it's a case of moving goalposts all the time. So it was first about trade, first about 2 sectors, then it became 5 sectors, then 10 sectors, then it became about BRICS because we want to protect the US dollar, then it became about Russian oil. None of which actually really matter in a trade deal.
Well, it's the trade imbalance, the deficit, $45 billion trade
that's
deficit.
It.
That's
therefore, I don't think we were ever going to, I don't think there was any intention, or even if we had reached a deal, knowing Trump, after all, he had reached a deal with Canada, he had reached a deal with Mexico, I don't think we could necessarily have counted on him to actually not put further tariffs on us. But the more important thing here, which PK also alluded to, is that, and you said at the start, that India has not responded in the sort of volatile fashion that Trump wants us to.
Yeah.
We have kept quiet, we stuck to the process. There is a certain delegation of the Americans coming. My gut feel would be that there will be some sort of period which Trump always gives, 90 days, 60 days, 45 days, whatever it is, after he realizes that we are not going to immediately kowtow to his bullying. And we will get to a solution that is a win-win for everybody. If we don't, I think Indian economy is strong enough to actually not just withstand it. If we suddenly decided to go after various markets, we can. And it's not like we do not have levers with the US. I mean, there is the defense, there is US educational system, there is high tech that we are buying from them. So it's not like we're just sitting there unable to survive without them. There are thousands of US jobs that are on the line. So I am sure that we are going to take a constructive approach to it. But I think we need to take him as Trump is. He's a unique phenomenon in the world economy. And we need to stick to our courses and stick to our red lines.
True. You talked about manufacturing, labor intensive. The setup with the UK, it's been more than 15 years in the making and conversation ever since Brexit happened. But last 3 years, we've been able to strike. Does that perhaps give Indian exporters, our markets also, an opportunity to say, okay, let's look beyond the US? If he's going to play truant, let's open up new possibilities. EU could also happen by September, Rajat. So where do you stand? How do you see this?
So fundamentally, if I may put a foundation to this discussion, is that the condition of Trump right now is like, मेरी बीवी मेरा सुन नहीं रही, और उस केस में मतलब मेरा पति मेरा सुन नहीं रहा, and she's throwing tantrums everywhere. So Trump is behaving like that woman. Now the point is, he needs to understand there was one moment when the World War II completed and the power shifted from UK to US. Then, like earlier in 1600, it shifted from India to UK. So this is that period where you think that you will have a hegemony. You won't have, because inherently when there is economy growing up, country making money, you have a good human capital and earning potential, there will always be frictions coming in. Now the point is, the problem with Trump psychologically is that he wants to score goals. US has already lost much of the ground. So what he can do? Okay, I will do trade, I will put spanner here, I will put spanner there, Putin is not listening to me. Okay, he has to score some scoring points anywhere and everywhere he could do. Now the point is, even if he doubles up the tariff tomorrow, what would happen? Will Bangladesh start exporting the money products another day itself? Say for example, if you just take pharma here, they are talking about, okay, our patented drugs are being taxed at 150% in India, for example. You are also importing our generic pharma. You are saving $220 billion on your medical expenses itself. You tax Indian pharma generic medicines over there. What Indian pharma companies like Reddy's and Ciplas will do? They will either absorb that shock certain matter, or pass on to their customers, or whatever they will do. But whatever the Trump does it will provide time for all the players. Whom? India, who is at the suffering end. Secondly, the US citizens who will be bearing the burn.
Yeah, there will be a surge in inflation,
exactly.
Because things will become expensive.
This will, and mind you, this is a very good thing that Trump is doing for us, because we had become psychologically, mentally dependent. Ki, okay, we have 20% of our biggest trading partner US, we are doing this, we are doing that. What happened in COVID was an eye-opener for everybody. Okay, China plus one policy. What the US is doing, okay, we will not keep our currency in US dollars, we will rather keep in gold. So what we have seen is that the gold ETFs did not increase in the quantum of gold, but the gold itself as a physical commodity was bought by treasuries. So therefore, when I see this as a problem, this could be the inflection point for India to first make reforms in core infrastructure, because in India the cost is 14%, like in developing countries 14% of the GDP cost goes into infrastructure. In developed countries it is 8%. If we quick that spanner, only 0.21% of our trade happens inland. In Germany it is much more. So the point is, while we are doing Bharatmala, it has its own limitations, while the infrastructure is being developed. The point is, if I am improving infrastructure, whether that is coastlines, whether that is internal network, now whatever the industry I am talking about, we still are having 80% inbound consumption. So even if we focus on different sectors, because we have to net off the cost, okay, whatever the US is doing, India is going to suffer. Now if I have having an impact of 0.25% on my GDP, where I can net it off. Can I improvise it on the infrastructure so I can save it up? Can I do it into the trade imbalance? I can do it off. There are imbalances not only in case of the tariffs that we do, but also in terms of that ki bhai, there are certain trade limitations, like you have to do following testing for your electronic items, you have to do these drug testing. So there are certifications like import licensing and all.
Yeah, sanitary and phytosanitary, they say,
exactly.
Or even TBS,
So if we formalize and normalize that, we are into very close negotiation, FTA with Australia and all of these UAE and other countries. So the point is, if we are improving infrastructure, that will spread to 10 different sectors altogether. So automatically leverage come there. Yes, we might be having couple of quarters under stretch with us, but if we put the policy framework and put the road pushing forward, at least some improvisation would happen. Not only that, what catch we are having? We have two ways. We will continue buying from Russia. We are having saste mein petrol. We are refining it. Okay, we cannot export it. Our import bill is less. We are blending it with ethanol till 20. We are benefiting from there. So, okay. But if I go the US way and I'm buying from Saudi Arabia and all, I'm paying them high, but again my inflation goes up. So I have to make a trade of my GDP, my growth, my education.
Yeah.
Now, which industries will be impacted?
But even there, I'll tell you, there is a price cutoff that you have to buy above that price. You have to buy Russian oil above that price. Bharat is buying above that price.
Below that price.
Bharat is buying below that price. And also, this was something which was in agreement with the Americans. They said that you don't disrupt the global oil prices and don't create an energy crisis.
US benefits.
Yeah.
The US benefits from, not just US, Trump, when he came in, one of the first things he did was to take actions to push oil prices down. And one of the reasons why inflation in the US has stayed lower than most economists expected is because of oil. Oil prices have come down sharply. Now, if India truly is banned from buying oil from Russia, and if everybody is banned from buying oil from Russia, the price of oil will shoot up. So the point is that we are actually helping the US, because a lot of the oil that we buy from Russia is...
Well, big development, viewers, and we've just got this even as we were having a conversation with the economists on the way forward on that special. We'll try and go back to them in a bit, but President Donald Trump has issued another executive order, and I think he's just trying to double down on his staring or his intimidation of Bharat. He slapped an additional tariff on Bharat, and that's another additional 25%. That's what he has done and said, 25% more tariff over continued purchase of Russian oil. Now, is this a justified stand? How is Bharat going to respond to it? And is Trump, who was evasive when questioned that he himself, that means America itself, is now continuing to import and continuing to do trade with Russia? Is it fair? What is going to be Bharat's response on this? Pallavi Ghosh joins us with more. Yes, Pallavi.
Okay, so this is something which the government was actually expecting, and I'm just going to quickly give you some points which we are picking up immediately from the government, saying that this doesn't really rattle us. National interest was and will always remain paramount. Whenever we were negotiating, what we were keeping in mind was that India will not negotiate on some of the items which are non-negotiable. That's one point. We have been reporting on that, farmers, MSMEs, and for example, GM modified food. But the sticky point between India and America was actually purchase of Russian oil. Now, over there, India has consistently called out the bluff by pointing out to America that you yourself purchase uranium and many of the Russian products from Russia. And why are you pointing it out at us? We saw the reaction of American President Anand when this question was asked of him. When it comes to Russian oil, we have been explaining consistently that it was America who actually endorsed India's decision to go in and purchase Russian oil, because that would have ensured that the global oil prices remain stable. India is not the largest purchaser of Russian oil. It's actually China at 47%. India remains at 38%. But more importantly, Russian oil is not a sanctioned oil, which means there is no sanction imposed on purchasing oil from Russia. Sanctions are imposed on purchasing oil from, say, Iran and Venezuela. We don't buy oil from these two countries. So we are following the global rules. It's countries in the Western Union or European Union and China who purchase oil from Iran and Venezuela despite knowing that it's sanctioned oil. They are the ones who should be held to ransom. But as far as India is concerned, negotiations still on. 25th August, Anand, the American negotiators as of now are coming on schedule. We can expect a statement coming out either from the MEA or from the Commerce Ministry, possibly later tonight.
Right. In that elaborate tweet, that post that Rapid Response has put out on behalf of President Trump, now it says the ad valorem duty imposed in Section 2 of this order shall be in addition to any other duties, fees, taxes, exactions and charges applicable to such imports unless subject to the existing or future actions under Section 232 of the Trade Expansion Act of 1962, in which case the ad valorem duty imposed in this order shall not apply. Also, he says that the ad valorem duty imposed in Section 2 shall not apply to articles that are exempted by 50 USC 1702B. And he's also saying that Section 2 of this order shall not apply to articles that are set forth in Annex 2 of the Executive Order 14257 of April 2nd, 2025, regulating imports with a reciprocal tariff to rectify trade practices that contribute to large and persistent annual United States good trade deficit. So that means that even though he's saying there is an additional ad valorem duty, it may not apply to all the exports that are going out of Bharat into the United States.
We also have to understand, Anand, that America is going to be perhaps possibly even more hurt than India in case trade ties between the two countries are jeopardized. I'll give a quick example which a top government official told me, and he told me very categorically, look at the production of iPhones, for example, in America. Indian labor is far, far superior to the Chinese labor as far as manufacture of iPhones are concerned. Now, in that case, if you are going to put these kind of tariffs, where does the Indian labor go? Another very quick example I can give you is, for example, as simple as a child seat inside the car. It costs $490, one child seat. Now, if the tariffs are applied, for example, coming in from China, then it goes up to $920, which means, a new parents would have an objection to it. This is a very simple example which is being given out by India, that we are not going to be hurt. We already have kept a plan B ready. We've looked at other countries. The FTA, which was signed with UK, which you covered, Anand, is something which has bolstered and emboldened the Indian economy and our traders. So if anyone who's going to end up paying the price for this will be America, which perhaps explains why there will be a selective application of the new hiked trade tariff.
Right, but Pallavi, and we'll try and connect with some of the economists we were in conversation with a short while ago. That was, viewers, a recorded conversation. But PK Basu is with us. PK Basu, a long tweet. He's invoked the National Emergency Act. He's also said anybody who's trading with the Russian Federation, I'm going to impose these taxes ad valorem. How should Bharat respond? Because he says that certain categories are still exempt. He's also saying that should any foreign nation like the Russian Federation or those impacted by these taxes retaliate, then he would reconsider or perhaps recalibrate. He's also saying that if they come under alignment or reduce their purchase, I will lift these imposition of this taxes and this duty. How should Bharat respond?
I haven't seen the tweet, but if what you're saying is true, then I don't think this is the final end point. He is still. I would still look at it as a threat of additional tariffs, and if those tariffs are imposed, of course, India would be a big sufferer relative to the rest of Asia. But I think the important thing is that if you look at the U.S. market, it's a very important market, and certainly for us to pay a higher tariff than what China is paying for exports to the US would be a grievous blow to us. It seems that pharmaceuticals and electronics are still exempt. If so, then it's not as bad as it seems on the surface. Remember that the US has already imposed a 25% tariff on all car and car parts imports into the US. So that hurts us already. Japan, the UK and the EU have now negotiated lower tariffs on their car and car parts exports to the US. So steel and aluminium are potentially paying 50% tariffs. Now, India is a big export. India is the second biggest producer of steel and aluminium, not the second biggest exporter, but certainly the second biggest producer in the world. And so we are naturally affected by those tariffs as well. So, a 50% tariff is already what we're going to be paying on steel and aluminum anyway. But the point is that if we were to negotiate a bilateral trade agreement with the US, we'll probably be able to get a much lower tariff rate of 15%. My point is that, Trump is going to be president for another 3.5 years. And so we need to deal with him. We cannot brush him off as a madman. And consequently, in my mind, it makes sense for us to keep pushing for a better arrangement, a bilateral trade arrangement that not only satisfies Trump's negotiators, but Trump himself, so that our textiles, garments, shoes, toys, our auto components, our steel, aluminium, all of this has better access to the US than China's, for instance, and preferably better than Vietnam, Indonesia, Philippines, etc. have negotiated with the US. If we do that, then I think we have a great deal to benefit, because labor-intensive manufacturing has the potential to grow threefold, at least, in 3 or 4 years.
Saket Mishra is also with us, PK Basu. So, gentlemen, and to viewers, just reading the finer print of this entire tweet. It's a very long tweet. Section 2, imposition of tariffs. A, he's saying, I find that the government of India is currently directly or indirectly importing Russian Federation oil. And then B, he says, accordingly and as consistent with applicable law, articles of India imported into the customs territory of the United States shall be subject to an additional ad valorem rate of duty of 25%. Subject to Section 3 of this order, this rate of duty shall be effective with respect to goods entered for consumption or withdrawn from warehouse for consumption on or after 12:01 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, 21 days after the date of this order, except for goods that one were loaded onto a vessel at the port of loading and in transit on the final mode of transit prior to entry into the United States before 12:01 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, 21 days after the date of this order, and 2 are entered for consumption or withdrawn from the warehouse for consumption before 12:01 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time on the 17th of September 2025. So it is not applicable from overnight, 21 days henceforth, and also there is another clause too, that entered for consumption or withdrawn from warehouse for consumption before 12:01 Eastern Daylight Time on the 17th of September 2025. The other thing he says, scope of duties and the stacking. The ad valorem duty, point 3, the ad valorem duty imposed in Section 2 of this order shall be in addition to any other duties, fees, taxes, exactions and charges applicable to such imports unless subject to existing or future actions under Section 232 of the Trade Expansion Act of 1962, in which case the ad valorem duty imposed in this order shall not apply. Then he says the ad valorem duty imposed in Section 2 of this order shall not apply to articles that are exempted by 50 U.S.C. 1702B. He also says the ad valorem duty imposed in Section 2 of this order shall not apply to articles that are set forth in Annex 2 to the Executive Order 14257 of 2nd of April 2025, regulating imports with a reciprocal tariff to rectify trade practices that contribute to large and persistent annual United States good trade deficits as amended. And he also is saying that ad valorem duty imposed in Executive Order 14257 April 2, 2025 as amended shall apply in addition to the ad valorem duty imposed in Section 2 when applicable pursuant to the terms of Executive Order 14257. So, he's also put whatever was agreed on the 2nd of April out of the ambit of this ad valorem, Saket Mishra, and he's also saying it's not immediately applicable. 21 days prior to this date of or post this date of order, and there is also a clause of the 17th of September 2025. So does that now mean that he's looking at saying that I'm going to bulldoze you, bully you, but still give you some wiggle room? How should Bharat respond? We have got the NSA in Russia, the EAM, and maybe the Prime Minister may end up in Beijing at the end of this month. 25th, there's supposed to be further conversation on the trade deal with the Americans. Your thoughts?
So, Anand, the first thing is that given the fact that it's such a long tweet, clearly Trump is also trying to handle another question that he's being faced with in the US, whether any of his tariffs are legal. And this language obviously seems to be making that, trying to get that covered. The only date to my mind that's relevant is the 25th of August, when the US delegation is coming. And it is Trump's style to try and bulldoze his way or give a yes-no sort of deadline. But clearly, the fact that he's given us a longer period of time, almost a month after the date on which they're coming in August, means that he too needs a good deal with India and a fair deal with India, and it gives us time as a process. I do not think we need to change or react in any manner. And just go with the kind of equanimity that our government has shown, which I think has been just perfect.
But so you're saying there should be no response. We should just be quiet.
No,
we should further irritate him.
Well, I think the response is that we remain committed to a treaty. It's a strategic relationship, and we want to make sure that it doesn't get threatened, and we will therefore work towards a solution with the US counterparties.
PK Basu?
Well, what is interesting is that the tariffs, the additional tariffs, do not become effective until 21 days from, I think, 12 noon on the 6th of August.
Yeah.
So on the 27th of August, basically, on the 25th of August, Indian time, The US negotiators will be here. They'll be here presumably the whole day and the next day perhaps. So that basically gives us 48 hours of negotiating time, 60 hours of negotiating time before that deadline for these duties to come into effect. Presumably, negotiations don't have to be in person. Some negotiations will probably continue between our representatives and theirs between now and the 25th of August. And on the 25th of August, they will be pretty close to some sort of agreement. So I don't think we need to get too concerned or start jumping up and down about what this tweet means. It is a much more nuanced tweet than previous.
No, but if he's claiming national emergency, shouldn't Trump turn around and say if America continues to trade and purchase from Russia? Bharat has highlighted that pharmaceuticals, palladium for the EVs, and also uranium for their nuclear reactors, it's all being purchased and it runs into at least a few billion.
Yeah, some of this stuff which EAM Jaishankar has been pointing out, must continue to be put into the public domain in the US so that the hypocrisy of the US position is made known. I think the Prime Minister is doing well by not personally getting too involved or phoning President Trump. You'll notice that the President of Switzerland has flown to the US immediately after a 39% tariff was imposed on Switzerland yesterday. Today, the President of Switzerland is in the US. So this is the way Trump wants people to behave. He wants to behave like an old-fashioned Chinese emperor with everybody kowtowing to him. And that is not going to be the way India approaches this. We will negotiate from a position of righteousness and keeping our national interest in mind, while I think we also need to be cognizant of the fact that President Trump is around for another 3.5 years. He cannot be wished away. Possibly he'll be succeeded by a similar person like J.D. Vance. So we cannot wish away the fact that you have Trump as president of the US. So we need to negotiate with him and try to get him on board, particularly because we have another 15 to 20 years of the demographic dividend available to us. And so those 3.5 years are really valuable, particularly in massively increasing employment and bringing about the structural transformation of employment away from agriculture to manufacturing and services, which is essential to a fast-developing country like India.
I'm going to check how much time we have on this edition of The Right Stand before we make way for brass tacks. But Saket Mishra, is this just the $45 billion trade deficit? Is that the whole point of all of this? And if Bharat can show to Donald Trump that gap can be narrowed some way or the other, will that convince him? Or should we not as a nation waste too much time around this? Let him come around if he wants to. Otherwise, Donald Trump will face the ire of his own population because things will become very, very expensive. Inflation will be up and this entire tariff structure will come back and there will be massive blowback. His approval ratings anyway are slipping. They've gone down below, they're touching at 40% and slipping on a downward slope based on the latest Ipsos numbers. His worst approval so far. So is he going to get pressured by the MAGA base itself, who he is wanting to win approvals from?
Absolutely, Anand. I think just to your first point, I don't think it's about the $45 billion. I think it's about wanting people to come and do what Indonesia did, which is one phone call and they caved in, or what the Swiss president is doing, which is flying away and flying to Washington and sort of leaning in the court of Donald Trump. And in any case, the fact is that the $45 billion is not really the real number because there are a lot of hidden flows that don't cover it. Now, as far as positive engagement is concerned, we most definitely need to remain engaged. And I'm sure the details aren't out yet, but I'm pretty positive that India is trying its best to reach a deal which is fair to the US and us, which includes perhaps reducing the $45 billion, but with red lines, because we do have to protect some things like our dairy and our agriculture and our poor farmers who are a very different population demographic than the rest, than let's say farmers in Japan or whichever other country. The third thing, as you very clearly pointed out, we do need to keep harping about both the strategic nature of the relationship and the hypocrisy of all these discussions, because that's showing an impact. Nikki Haley has already talked about how India should not be burning its bridges with, how the US should not be burning bridges with one of the most important allies they have, and one of the most important as well as effective allies they have in Asia Pac. So I think there will be a voice that's coming through, and the MAGA base is. I mean, there is the whole Epstein issue that's already, let's say, boiling them a fair bit, and perhaps this is part of the diversion.
But I wanted to ask you this: is this part of that too, the Epstein files, and is that the reason that he's trying to do this, to try and deflect attention?
Yeah, I mean, it seems that the entire administration of the senior people are meeting in Vice President Vance's house to devise a strategy to cope with the Epstein issue, and I do think that contributes to this entire process. But I think the fact is that the moment it starts hitting the bottom 10 to 15% of the population, whether it's in the rise of oil prices or whether it's in the rise of daily commodities or generic medicines that they depend on, they're going to blow back really hard on the Republican Party. And the Republican Party is more than Donald Trump.
Yeah.
So they all need to survive.
Yeah, I just want to tell our viewers that we have to read the fine print, not just the headline. The headline may say 25% additional tax. The fine print says only 21 days from now. So that is only after the 27th of August that this is going to happen. So we have to, and 25th of August, the American delegation is in Bharat to have the conversations on the bilateral trade deal or agreement. Now, whether that's a limited one or a comprehensive one, we have to wait and watch. So we must, there is a reaction from the opposition already that the Prime Minister must speak, it's time. Is that something that P.K. Basu, you agree, or the Prime Minister should not speak? Well, that's something that Trump seems to want, that Narendra Modi should pick up the phone and call him. Just like you said, the Swiss, Prime Minister rushed to the US. And that's not something that we should do, should we? Should we just wait
Absolutely
and say, hey,
not.
25th, I've got time. Let's me not hurry. Let Trump cry a little more, throw a few more tantrums.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I think the Prime Minister is doing the right thing by not picking up the phone or flying off to the US. Trump wants us to kowtow. We do not need to kowtow. Second point is that, I think that, the 25th of August, we are going to have formal negotiations anyway. And if you look at the oil price, if Trump really wants all oil imports from Russia to stop, that will have a huge impact on world oil prices. If not just us and China, but everybody, including the Europeans and the Americans, stop buying oil from Russia, the price of oil will go up sharply because we'll have to buy from others. Everybody who is currently buying from Russia will have to buy from others.
Right.
Russian oil will go off the world market. And that will result in a massive spike in oil prices. That is something that the US cannot afford. It's simple. Trump began his presidency by basically saying that he's going to allow a huge increase in oil and gas production in the United States.
Right.
And he negotiated a deal with OPEC Plus, which includes Russia, by the way, to increase supply.
Yes.
So all of this was aimed at bringing down oil prices. He has succeeded with that, which is the key reason why US inflation has continued to surprise on the downside, precisely because oil prices are low. If oil prices spike, that upends this entire story and actually puts the US in a very difficult position. So I don't think the threat to basically ban everybody from importing oil from Russia is actually credible.
Well, and not just that, somebody may be showing the axe saying that, listen, I'm going to bring it on you, but if it's going to land on his own feet, why should we panic? So I know it's not just the headline, viewers, it's the fine print, it's the devil actually lies in the details in this case. And truly, please go through the entire tweet very carefully. There is another 21 days before this entire ad valorem tax comes into play. Within 18, 19 days, the American delegation will be in Bharat. So there will be a lot of bridge water that will flow under the bridge by then, and a lot of things will change. Bharat is showing that kind of restraint, strategic restraint, and saying we are going to wait for our time. Saket Mishra and PK Vasu, please stay on with us. It's a continuous broadcast, viewers, so it's a relay from the right stand into brass tacks with Poonam.
Thank you so much for that, Anand. You are watching our coverage here, and it seems like the man who called India the tariff king is turning to be the tariff king now, because 50% is the highest that India faces among any Asian countries. It's only on par with one other country, which is Brazil. In fact, President Trump just signed that executive order. He imposed this additional 25% in response to the continued purchase of Russian oil that India does. Now, that's something that India has not bowed down to. It's a demand that Donald Trump has been making time and again, but India has made it very clear. It is in our interest to buy Russian oil, because that is what helps us and the world to keep the oil prices as what they are. So now, as penalty, India faces a whopping 50% for not towing the line Donald Trump wanted. His frustration, perhaps, with Vladimir Putin for not being able to end the Ukraine war now is spilling onto India. Now, this also comes a day after Donald Trump threatened that substantial increase. He actually made good on that threat. Listen into what he said just 12 hours ago.
Do you still plan to follow through on your threat to impose 100% tariffs on all countries that purchase Russian energy, including China,